morning. If it sounds raucous outside, that's just going to be what it's like all day. You know how we do it here at SJU. Thank you.
Don't come a knocking.
Joining us.
If it's rocking.
If the SJUs are rocking. Yeah. We are talking about some great stuff today. We're going to talk about that Birds of Prey. We're also going to talk about the Golden Globes. There is a lot to get into there. And we're going to talk about the Free Guy trailer. I have got me and Ed Greer. Good morning.
Hello.
I've got me and Joe Starr. Good morning.
Hi, Danielle Radford.
Hello. I've got me and Dan Merle. Good morning.
You want to know how crazy this show is going to be? I have 2 scripts.
Yeah.
It's
Danny,
a 2-script kind of day.
You want to know how I got these scripts?
Yeah. They were on the table when I walked in.
And I just used them both.
Yeah.
And there are people shooting things with lots of great stuff.
They can't hear it.
They can't hear it? Okay, great. Perfect.
That's good.
So first off, we're going to talk about that Birds of Prey. It's saying that they're set in a different timeline. This is via Collider. Speaking to press about Birds of Prey, director Kathy Yan had an interesting answer regarding the film's timeline in relation to Suicide Squad. When asked if there was a specific amount of time passed since we saw Harley in Suicide Squad, Yan replied, "There is not any known amount of time. No, it kind of exists in a parallel timeline." She continued about how Birds of Prey is really about how to dig into Harley's character and separate her from Joker. She says, with Suicide Squad, she's so connected to the Joker. I mean, their story is so intertwined. It really is their love story, if you will, but this is not. And she continues to go on basically like, this is about the freedom of Harley Quinn without the Joker. What do we think? Do we think we should take this literally?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
Oh, yeah,
that is exactly. But I didn't want to lead with that. I don't want to do leading questions. But
I think now, unfortunately, before you jump on, Dan, if you say parallel universe to a nerd post Endgame, they're going to be like, "What did you say?"
I mean, no, it's
the multiverse.
Yeah. No, I think it's to me, my take on it is it's more of an expression of the fact that this is not concerned with how do the events in this movie tie into the events in the Suicide Squad, and how do they tie into the events of the piece. I think it's worth saying, like, don't worry about that. Mm-hmm. It's just whatever. It's not part of that. And not that it's in, but will Supergirl show up? No, it's more of just like, don't think of it as like a continuation of the previous film. We're doing our own thing over here.
Yeah, it's the David S. Pumpkins, not Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
Yes, it's its own thing, and the birds part of it.
Part of it.
Yeah. It's because it doesn't matter. Like It's not continuing anything. I don't think DC has any interest anytime soon in setting out the roadmap to Darkseid. Like,
no.
they just
and they've had more success. The more that they've not done that, the more successful they've been.
Absolutely.
And I think that they understand that, which is good.
Yeah.
This is the path for them, and it's working out great.
Yeah, they turned it into
really
Sting,
well.
right? Like that's exactly how I took it. I took it to mean not so much, it's like it's a parallel thing, but just like, don't let Harley have her own thing. Look, if it turns out that all of this works and later DC decides that they want to bring this in and make this part of, the DCEU, whatever they decide to do next, if they want to bring this in, if they want to bring in Joker, they will find a way to make it happen. That is what writers are for. But I like that they are pressing upon us so heavily that this is just what it is and let it be cool on its own.
Yeah, it's like a thematic continuity. Right? Like they're continuing ideas and stuff like that. But as far as like timeline, I don't need to know like how long this takes specifically after Slipknot, the man who can climb anything, gets shot while he's climbing something. Like I don't.
Joe, his head was exploded remotely.
Oh, you're right.
Rick
Oh my God.
Due to the implant in his neck.
You are absolutely right. And
how you gonna do our boy Slipknot like that?
I'm sorry. I need to jump. I'll need to jump on our Cram It before Birds of Prey comes out. That'll be a fun Cram It where it's like a theological Cram It, a philosophical Cram It.
I want to do a Cram It that's just Slipknot and it's 15 seconds long.
I'd be so down for that.
Cram It, Slipknot.
Can that be our?
Man who can climb anything.
Can that be our April 1st Cram It?
When the Suicide Squad gathered, we introduced Slipknot, the man who can climb anything. The gang travels via helicopter to a city, and then Slipknot dies. Thanks for watching Cram It. Be sure to like and subscribe.
It's an easy one for Lon.
That one has the most views ever.
That was my Cram It voice.
Yeah.
It's a very subtle distinction.
That was very good. Yeah, I think it is important for us to kind of. Yeah, I like your verbiage. Lean into the skid or turn into the skid, but I think it's time to realize that maybe DC's characters, it isn't a skid for them to not be all together and have a little gang and go report to, let's all have coffee at the same place. We got a big glass table. Batman, you sit there. Green Lantern. That's stupid. In their universe, that's stupid because all these dudes are super gods. And obviously this Gotham that they're presenting, if Batman exists, he's going to shut down all of this jazz you're doing. You cannot be running around doing all this jazz in Gotham with a Batman in it.
So they're not going to have a panel show like this one where we all sit around a glass table?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
they're definitely going to do that.
Well, like
Wonder
you
Woman.
can, because like the books do, but like I've never read like a Nightwing comic or something like that and like been like, yeah, but how does this fit into what Lobo's doing right now? Like
Absolutely.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it to enjoy. Like I'm so glad that they're, like you said, they're having the most success right now, just like letting characters be characters.
Well, and look, and Sony has learned the same lessons after Amazing Spider-Man 2. And look at the phenomenal success that they have had. They have a Spider-Man franchise that ties into the MCU and is part of a continuing storyline. They also have an animated Spider-Man franchise that's its own thing, as we would say with David S. Pumpkins. And they've got Venom, which may be part of Spider-Man, but may not. But guess what? That's doing just fine on its own. And I think they learned that, like, this idea of this interconnected universes, like, it has worked for Marvel. Will it continue to work in the future? Who knows? They've closed the book on this first big huge story. Can they write another book? The sophomore slump. The second book's not always as good. Sometimes.
I don't care about the Eternals at all.
I'm not yet jazzed about. I'm not hotly anticipating any of the releases. That's not that I don't think they're going to be good, but I'm not hotly anticipating any of the next year's Marvel movies. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm fascinated by their rebuild period.
Yeah.
And like how you even approach that.
But also this whole section of time, we're seeing more and more properties that are more about that particular iteration. Thinking nothing about anything else. If Multiverse and the Minds of Madness or whatever the hell Doctor Strange doesn't quite work, it's not going to ruin anything because it doesn't directly probably relate to too much other stuff other than this is Marvel's understanding of the multiverse. Beyond that, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, we met a weird Thor and he's going to be a pain in our ass the next 5 movies. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't think they're going to be connected in that manner.
I know I say this too much. I would watch Weird Thor.
Oh, yeah. Weird, mean Thor. I'd love that.
I would watch that.
I mean, I think that's Taika Waititi's movies. They should just be called Weird Thor 1 and Weird Thor 2 or 2021 or whatever.
No, but all I was trying to say is the whole
80s gems.
the whole point of DC's way of doing things is it isn't that they can't or that they shouldn't do a connected universe. I don't really think we should concentrate on that. I think they've discovered the power in letting, and I've said it before, their whole game has always been let an artist do our characters. Christopher Nolan did not care how Superman would mesh with this Dark Knight who falls off his bikes and pines over Gyllenhaal's. He didn't care how that was ever going to connect. And it made those movies better for it. Not necessarily for me, but for all y'all who like them, that made those better. And I love that DC's always been willing to be like, this is my baby, you're an artist, deal with it. Todd Phillips, that success of it is not, how is this Joker going to ever fight Batman? Because spoiler alert, that Joker could never fight any version of Batman.
Well, it's interesting because I think they've always been willing to like let Batman go play in the yard without any parental supervision, right?
I agree.
But like, I'm glad that they are starting to do so with all of it.
Yes.
Like, I'm glad that they're like, you know what, Shazam. Just be back before dinner.
Yeah.
Just be back before mom's on the porch hollering.
Get home before the street lights come on. You're still only 14. You look like a man. That's the premise of the show, but you're 14.
And stop giving Wonder Woman rides on your lightning, okay? She's using you.
Well, no, but and you're absolutely right. Like, that is, to me, DC has always had the more iconic characters, your Batmans, your Supermans, your Wonder Womans. I don't necessarily, it would be really cool if we could bring them all together and do that in a way that works. But like, Wonder Woman 84 looks so cool. I don't need Batman grumping in the background in the mall of that. I don't need that.
Little young Bruce Wayne, like walking through the mall.
with a flock of seagulls haircut.
Yeah. Going to the poster store. Oh, which one has the most angst? Like I know.
He's at a
Can you
coconut
imagine a de-aged
tapes.
Ben Affleck walking through the middle of Wonder Woman 1984?
Put some Sbarros in his hand, you know, just because he's in a mall. He's got a Sbarros calzone
Julius
in his hand.
Caesar.
Orange Julius in his hand.
Eating it at
Sbarro's
Mr.
calzone.
Dunderbox in the whatever 84 version of that mall.
Yeah, I absolutely don't need that. I like that they're all doing their own thing, and I like that they're all alone. Joe Starr, any final thoughts?
No, man, I'm absolutely for this. Like this frees up the movie to be whatever it needs to be, which is what all of them need to be. It seems like this approach is probably the same thing they're going to do with the second Suicide Squad, which I think great. I don't think any Suicide Squad by its nature doesn't need to connect to anything. It's supposed to be like a ridiculous pulp grindhouse machine.
That's like the whole point.
Where
Yeah.
you just crank through Z-listers. Like I don't need that to have a continuity. I just need that to be a bunch of red shirts that they trick me into caring about before they all get fed into a mower. I think this is great. I think this is the best thing for their characters, for their properties. I'm not worried about what Jared Leto Joker's doing.
Not even a
after
little.
she leaves him.
Yep. Catman or we riot.
As long as there's Catman
I'm
for
still
Danielle,
on this.
I know.
I just need it. And also, this is the part of the show where we thank you all so much for being so supportive of me yelling about Catman at the top of my lungs. I hope I've inspired some of you to read Gail Simone's run, because Catman is so delightful and he's such a sweetheart, and I want him to get what he deserves. But y'all are the reason why we're able to do all of these things that we do. You were the reason why we got to do a documentary, which you can now pre-order on Apple. December 17th, Never Surrender. Go pre-order it. You were wondering how you can all check that out. That is available. Also, we literally locked up some very smart people, and we had them figure out our next episode of Power Levels, which is Thanos versus the Death Star. It is on Screen Junkies now. We do answer definitively a lot of questions about Thanos' poop. It is really funny, so go check that out. And also, because of you, we get to do some shout-outs to some other organizations doing some good work. Dan, would you like to tell us some more about that?
Yeah, we're doing 826 LA this month, which is we're all here. Generally because somebody in our lives fostered creativity at some point, and that's really part of what their organization is committed to doing. They're a nonprofit. They support under-resourced students from ages 6 to 18 to help foster their creative, their expository writing skills. They help teachers as they inspire their students to write, and I think that creativity is a wonderful flame that burns inside of everybody in some form or another, whether it's writing, whether it's poetry, whether it's dance or how do you like to anything really. It doesn't matter. It's not just the arts, but it's also something that I think is very amazing to find organizations that say, hey, that's not weird, that's awesome, that's a great thing about you, and hey, you want to learn more, we're going to help you do that. So 826 LA, there are links below. You can find more information about this program. Check them out. You can donate, you can volunteer. Spencer's talked about how he's volunteered and helped with that as well. There's so many different ways that you can help, but yeah, especially when you're young, 6 to 18, but even particularly like that 6 to 12 range.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can speak from experience. Finding somebody, whether it's a school, it's a teacher, it's after school, it's a family member, whatever, who can say, yes, that's a good thing about you. You're not wasting your time. Follow that. Do that. That's amazing. It's amazing to find those people, and 826 LA is committed to helping that happen.
Yeah.
So please support them, because they do some great work.
especially those at under-resourced areas and stuff that there's not necessarily someone who is going to be there to be keep going on that track.
Yeah, so many of these programs are getting cut, and they are so important and so crucial for, I think, everyone here's development, was having that one teacher or that one mentor.
Yeah.
Like you said, just normalized, it is okay to show off and be creative and do that.
Yep.
So.
Well, and also just one last thing. I always say this thing: if you don't know enough words, you can't feel enough feelings. And it's really intrinsic inside your mind. You know, the difference between melancholy and you know, what the difference between a penumbra and a shadow. There's differences, you know, and once you know those, I could put those into once you can articulate that, it helps your life. It helps you to be articulate. You know what I mean? It helps you to be able to articulate the nuances of how you feel.
Yeah.
And that helps you to deal with your feelings. It isn't quite enough to say, I'm mad. Well, write a story where people get beat up. No, well, why are you angry? Are you frustrated?
Yeah, the more
or are you angry?
I agree
all these
completely.
sort of
I think
things.
the more kids are able to create, the less because I think especially with the kids, it's just like you're angry, and like that's kind of it, and that's not necessarily. And you're absolutely right. That's a really cool way to look at it. Like the more you're sort of encouraged to create and explore, the more you can sort of like branch off and sort of figure yourself out a little bit more. That's a really good call. And Spencer brought this up in an earlier episode, which I didn't realize that they do, but if you want a really cool, simple way to support 826, every year they do like a best of, where kids that are in the program vote on pieces that should be put together in like a compilation. Awesome stocking stuffer for people who you're like, you have plenty of things, and I think that's a really
awesome.
cool way
That's
to
great.
support. So
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So thank you so much. All of the links are down below. I'm going to start volunteering next year because Lord knows I have too much time on my hands. That's not true. Next. We're getting into these Golden Globe nominations. The Golden Globe nominations were released on Monday. Netflix did dominate with 17 nominations, followed with HBO by 15. A lot of nominees here. We're not going to go through every one of them. You can find a list. There are plenty of them online, but we are going to kind of give it some of our thoughts. I have got a ton, but I'm going to start with Dan.
The one that sticks out to me is the two popes being nominated for so much because, and we mentioned Netflix dominating with 17 nominations. We talk a lot about the Golden Globes on this show.
the networks just didn't get invited to the dinner.
They're a wine and dine organization, and that's not to say that any of these nominees are not deserving, because they are. However, this is my first year being sort of part of this campaign process. I'm in the Hollywood Critics Association and the part of Critics' Choice, the BFCA, and so I didn't really know what exactly was involved with all of this campaigning, and I'm getting a glimpse of it really for the first time this year. And when I see the Golden Globes and I saw the two popes, and I liked it, but it's like you look down these kids, like boom, 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 it's everywhere. Netflix, and this is nothing against them, they did exactly what they should do. They
played by the rules
campaigned and pushed their films so hard as far as like hosting things and sending stuff and sending, you know, memorabilia and everything out to the voting members of different guilds. Everyone does that. There's nothing wrong with Netflix, but I think, in my opinion, perhaps when people look and say, why is the two popes there so much? Part of it is that I think the Golden Globes as an organization is perhaps a little more receptive to the fancy treatment. And Netflix, because they have limitless funds, was able to really roll out the carpet. Again, as they should. Not a criticism of Netflix at all. They have movies to push, and they're doing great. I mean, their movies are doing great so far in the awards season, as are the movies of several other studios. But when I look at Two Popes, particularly for motion picture drama, there's so many other movies that did not have those resources, like Uncut Gems and Honey Boy, that, you know, if I were a voter in that organization, that I would perhaps have looked at over the Two Popes. Again, not saying there's anything wrong with that film. I just don't think there's so many great movies this season, and I think that there's others that perhaps you could have taken a look at. But that's just a theory, a film theory. Sorry, Matt Patton. I'm gonna get sued now.
As long as you don't react to that film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just don't.
Dan neutrals to film theory. It's really hard when you look at the nominations, and I'm sorry, like, you see that there's no women directors nominated, and women not, like, I don't. Honey Boy was amazing, and there were so many really amazing movies. And I'm not saying, this isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, well, which one would you take out? I'm just saying it seems like none of them were even in consideration. And, you know, When They See Us didn't get anything. Nothing for Regina King, like nothing. I don't know. It can be really frustrating looking at these, and that is a good reminder that these are we always, I feel like it's one of those things we all know when we say Golden Globes is the party awards. That's how they build themselves. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Callista Flockhart will forget how to go on a stage or whatever. Like, they always show the same, like, 4 clips of, like, wacky stuff happening. And so you have to keep that in mind.
I just have a Jackass montage in my head now. And every now and then it just cuts to Ricky Gervais with a pint, like...
Yeah,
Exactly.
He's hosting again this year, which I actually like because he takes the piss out of that room. But you're right, the Golden Globes is the party awards, but the other thing is they get to decide who they invite to the party.
Yeah, I don't like that. That's
And
the part that
when you're
what
looking
she
at
does.
something like Best Director, and again, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of my favorite movies of the year. Definitely, but up there. But if you're the Golden Globes and you're nominating, and you're thinking about the broadcast and the party you get to throw, I think having Quentin Tarantino at your party versus having Alma Harrell at your party is a little bit more of like
right.
Tarantino is Tarantino. I don't know. The Globes are weird.
Yeah.
They're a fun telecast because it's so loosey goosey, but at the same time they're taken far more seriously than they should be.
That's what bugs me, because they are the party, but the way that they go tends to have so much influence on how the rest of the award season goes. And if we just all treated it like the party they want it to be, I think we'd be better off. But it does wind up being like, well, who won those wind up being heavy predictors for who's going to win an Oscar and who's going to be celebrated at other things. And that is what makes me frustrated.
I mean, they end up being heavy predictors because these are the movies they're going to back, that the studios are going to back. Like, outside of maybe a few outliers. And, or maybe if something just gets buried at the Globes and they change course. But, like, Netflix knows their full campaign run by now. They know the campaign budget behind The Irishman. I think to sort of, like, circle back to what you were saying, Danielle, the Globes and award season are an interesting look at, are we getting the job done? Are we actually seeing... sort of the idea of creating a more diverse slate of film and TV, are we actually seeing it through? Or are we still, lip service is maybe too negative a word, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are we in what end of the pool are we in? Are we just in the shallow end splashing around with Ava DuVernay with pool noodles? Or are we like actually like...
that sounds delightful.
Now that does sound fun.
Right?
Yeah. Now that does sound fun.
I want to see what bonnet she wears to the pool. Sorry. I need to see what bonnet she wears to the pool.
Yeah.
But I think that award season is an interesting look at like... cool, like you got behind X, Y, and Z, and you gave them first looks and this and that, but are we seeing things through to the end?
Right.
And sometimes it's just a matter of you've got folks in departments that are just running to catch up, and old ass wheels kind of turning, and gears still kind of grinding, which sucks. But maybe, I don't, where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like this weird endless point. But yeah, it's almost a report card.
But I always think it's really funny that every year we're super disappointed. We're either too hype because they put a bunch of women and darker people in it. We're either too hype about it, or we're super mad that there's none. It's like, well... this is just symptomatic of how slow things change. We still measure things in horsepower. We're still trying to explain the multiverse to people. I was reading comic books that were 20 years old about the multiverse in 2000. It's 2020.
All our movie adaptations are still comics from the 70s and 80s.
Exactly. Yep. So it's just emblematic of how slow things change. So
not all.
Once these oldsters and people who are swayed by champagne lunches die off, and they have to appeal to people like me.
Everyone will always be.
Oh, no, but they might have to at some point. They might have to at some point acquiesce to people like me, who'd rather go to any sort of event than a champagne event. Perhaps the demographic of how they influence people will change because the people voting will change, and perhaps that will influence the choices. But it can't be this champagne party forever. It just can't.
But I think that's the difference. I think this perspective that has to change, because I think the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has always been and will always be a champagne lunch organization. organization.
Yeah.
And they're gonna invite the people to their champagne lunch that they want to see at their champagne lunch, and that's usually bigger stars, people that are directing movies, and then things that like they can't overlook. Like it's hard for them to not say Sam Mendes should be there because 1917 is it's like, but at the same time, like that goes systemic as far as like, then why are the people that they want to be there these people and not that's like a bigger systemic
Who
thing.
gets to go to lunch?
I think the bigger thing is like a perception thing of just like, we shouldn't be treating the champagne lunch organization as if they are the arbiter of taste and they know who deserves what. And I think one of the only things that's good about this abbreviated awards season now is that the Golden Globes used to be at the end of January and the Oscars were in like the beginning or middle of March. And so the Golden Globes did actually influence heavily a lot of perceptions around the Academy Awards because it's so compressed now. I think its influence is less, but I think it's a bigger thing of just like, I agree with you, Ed. Like, it would be great if the Hollywood Foreign Press was more about like, we're gonna do a deep dive into but I feel like that's what the critics associations generally tend to do, and hopefully the Oscars,
The spirits.
I think it's more of the idea.
Unfortunately, no one watches a lot of those.
Yeah, I think it's more the idea of putting the Golden Globes in the proper perspective, which is just like
the MTV
they're not
movie
out
awards.
They're the
there.
Teen Choice
Yes,
Awards,
exactly.
exactly.
They're not out there necessarily to say this is the best. It's like these are the coolest. These are the cool kids that we want to invite. to the
John
party.
Cena will let us slime him, and so he gets to come to our lunch party.
Exactly.
Well, I just wish more people would see them all that way, because the concept that this is the champagne one that doesn't count, but this other one made of people who were script supervisors on His Girl Friday in 1933.
Great movie.
That's way better.
Sorry.
Obviously, that's a great movie, but the woman who decided that the coffee cup should be there instead of there has this vote, and I understand that, and that's wonderful. However, there
Ed, are you
should
saying
be,
women shouldn't have the vote?
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, pull that out, chat.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is like we give such undue credence to people who used to be in business, in the movie business a billion years ago, and they get all the screeners and they just let them stack up like mail at a dead person's house. You know what I mean? And it's just what the hell?
And Alma Harrell absolutely agrees with you. She put out some fire tweets. One of them was, good morning to everyone that's writing me about #Golden Globes. I feel you, but know this. I was on the inside for the first time this year. These are not our people. They do not represent us. Do not look for justice in the award system.
What she just said, I don't have to talk anymore about this, because that's exactly what I'm saying. It's this concept that there's ever a fair game for you. Stop it. Just stop pretending it's a fair game for you. I think a lot of people should kind of grok to the fact that it's not fair, not gonna be fair, and is not representative. And that's the point. We're arguing so damn much about representation. I want your representation. They don't represent you. They're never going to represent you.
Go to a different lunch.
Ever. So just stop. Stop caring what people who don't care about you and your humanity think about your films. Stop it. You have the power. Put the sword in the air, get tan, and don't care about this anymore. God.
That is the best description of He-Man I've ever heard. Put your sword in the air.
Get tan.
Yeah. I will say, I do think the
Sound like an
Academy
Andre
is the
3000
only
right now.
organization that is attempting to address that. I think that the Academy is actually bringing in, and not perfect, we saw who won Best Picture last year, but they are bringing in new initiatives. I think they are trying to introduce a more widely varied membership, and they've also taken steps to sort of cull out inactive members. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect system. It never will be. But I think
inactive members thing, love it, love it, love it.
I think the Academy's trying. They're not there yet, but a lot of the others, particularly the Golden Globes, I think like that is just it's a crony organization, and it always will be. And it's there's a lot to.
And I have a hot take. I would have actually been interested to see what the best popular movie Oscar would have looked like. Maybe just to burn down the internet. Maybe just to burn it all down. I would have been very interested to see. But it's not good. It's not a good idea. But it was really funny for that like two weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty damn sad.
It's like I wasn't falling for it.
Why are you sad, Dan?
I did. I just sat Dan. I just sat Dan. And next, what we're gonna do is Free Guy. Boom, boom, boom. Your girl's on it. Segment number 3.
It would be weird if we then went through the nominations after that conversation.
I'm like, absolutely.
I know, right? Now let's talk about Lion King was nominated for Best Animated Feature.
The chat was talking about this the most.
So that means
cool.
I can now like the trades because Disney doesn't.
Wait,
they don't
you're right.
count it as an animated feature. It's an animated feature. It is a computer animated feature. It's as much an animated feature as Toy Story 4, Lion King. Doesn't matter that it looks like live action. It's an animated feature.
Lions don't actually give each other FIs like they did during tonight. They don't.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
It's
Because
hard.
if I'm going to use some Oscar logic trap here. Because if the arbiter is like, oh, it looks like live action, so it's not animation, then Andy Serkis should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for playing Gollum, but he wasn't because he was an animated character in a live action film. Lion King is an animated film that looks like live action. And it shouldn't have been nominated for Best Animated Film. But that's another story altogether.
We already had that conversation.
We already had that conversation.
Oh, can I just shout out one movie? Just
Yes,
one
please.
movie that I just, it's nominated and I'd really like for people to see it. I've said it before, but everybody doesn't watch every one of these things. Please watch Dolomite Is My Name, please.
So
good.
Please. It's so like moving and it's got a great aesthetic and it knows what it came to do. And it did it. And I think we should celebrate more movies like that, whether it's in award shows or whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I would love for Netflix to look at those numbers. I would love for the 3 theaters that may still be playing it to fill up with people. Because I said it on Screen Junkie, stupid. But you know what I'm saying? I just really think people should see that movie because it's more than just a blaxploitation. Even if it was just that, it'd be great. But it's more than that. It's a heartwarming story about a person trying to accomplish a personal goal and fighting against a machine.
Institutionalized everything.
Yeah,
Look,
it's
what we're literally
this
talking
as a
about.
movie. It's this as a movie.
Yeah, and despite there are titles and talent on this list that deserve to be able to show up to the lunch, if nothing else than to go, I don't feel like coming to your lunch. The Farewell is real good.
Really good.
Real good. Dolomite, Parasite's awesome. I was actually really excited this year that it seemed like Parasite actually somewhat got through to the mainstream.
No,
It is,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
Right?
I like that.
Yeah. There's stuff in here that deserves to be seen. I think Hustlers is really good. Even The Irishman is a hell of a movie. And I think if nothing else, like there are people on this list that really deserve to go in. If nothing else, than to just acknowledge that they're better than the lunch, and maybe they're just going to go to TGI Fridays and have a Jack Daniel's glazed plate of bourbon wings.
Someone pop champagne on Cardi B for Hustlers. No, but seriously, do that. So yes, Free Guy came out. It is the trailer for Ryan Reynolds' new movie. This looks really fun to me. So Free Guy, the idea is that he is an NPC in a video game and he doesn't realize it, and he starts to come into his own sentience as the game goes on because he finds glasses with a heads-up display on them. We have all watched the trailer. I watched Joe watch the trailer, and you had delighted face.
Yeah, it's fun. I like. I think Ryan Reynolds gets kind of not shoehorned, but like you're the snarky cool guy, and I think it's fun, especially like post Deadpool, and that's what people like want from him. Like you're the guy that's gonna be very smarmy before he breaks someone's arm, and I like him being able to play against type a little bit. That sort of like wholesome, wide-eyed, like. Sort of like, what? A Mark Wahlberg-y Ryan Reynolds, if you will, that just looks around and goes, what? No!
What's going on? I can't catch my breath.
I think that's really fun. I'm even just like watching the trailer, I was kind of like, I don't know what's happening. In a good way, like, oh, this is happening. Oh, no, that's not. It was twisting and turning just in the trailer itself. It looks very sort of silly and fun, almost like an honest trailer Wreck-It Ralph. He's stealing from us again.
Send us more aviation, Jen.
And they live. The glasses.
And they live, yep.
Oh, yeah.
I hope he and Keith David get into a fight about putting on the glasses for 15 minutes in the middle of the movie. That would be
Absolutely.
incredible. It's anytime you can introduce a little more 90s Mariah Carey into the mainstream again, I love it.
It is her month. Give Mariah her thanks.
Agreed.
It is. December is like Mariah Carey month. Also, it's weird, and this was the first Fox movie that I saw like openly acknowledge that it was from Disney, because it says it was from the studio that brought you Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King twice, which is a funny joke.
Really funny.
But it's like one of the first open acknowledgments that I've seen that they're just one corporate structure, because this is a Fox movie. Like it was released, it's under the 20th Century Fox name, but it's just literally just like, we're Disney now.
Ryan Reynolds can get away with murder.
He really can, but I just thought it was interesting that they just like put it straight out there, just like whatever, it may say Fox, but we're Disney. And then it looks really fun. I was looking at the screen. This guy Matt Lieberman, who co-wrote the screenplay, one of the writers wrote Ready Player One, among other things. Zach Penn, who's written so many movies, but Ready Player One, which makes sense because this has a real Ready Player One vibe to me, even the look of it. But this guy Matt Lieberman, who co-wrote the screenplay, not former TV Fights champion Matt Lieberman, different Matt Lieberman, but it's like he's working on so much stuff. He did Christmas Chronicles, and then he has like 15 projects in development now, including this one, and he did this story for Scoob, and he wrote Addams Family, he wrote Playing with Fire, he's attached to the Jetsons, he's attached to Short Circuits. He's one of those screenwriters that's doing everything. And then Sean Levy, who's done a lot of comedies, done a lot of Stranger Things.
Yep.
So I think it looks really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
And one thing I like, just to, I'm not firing up the hot take machine, but I think it is also just slightly doing a nice, subtle jab at how toxic, and I kind of hate that word now. You know what I mean? Brittany, take it back and dance away with it. But how crappy people are online. Like the fact that this multiplayer world, it's just a bunch of people who are playing a game, but they shoot people in the face all the time. They rob everything. I understand that sometimes that's the point of the game, but I've seen little children play GTA 4, and they get on a scooter and they drive around and they look at stuff. Yep. Because in their little heart isn't all this vitriol.
Yep. I have a buddy that tried to do a violence-free Vice City run, and it was.
I've seen a couple of those.
It was delightful.
Just negotiating with people.
Awesome.
Hey, gangs, don't bother me. I'm going over here. I'm just going to deliver something. Don't worry about it. Yep. You know what I mean? Just try to do it nice. Yep. I just think it's kind of. I don't know. It's talking about something of how crappy and vitriolic and fight, itchy and scratchy show our whole society has become. The fact that we would even consent to play games where the whole object of it is to run around and shoot strangers in the face. I'm not trying to poo-poo that, video game dorks. I am one. I get it. But I just,
There's something to be talked about there.
But yeah, there is something about, like, that's our society.
Yeah.
If that's toxic, then I am like the toxic Avenger, because I'm not going to lie. I've spent many hours playing GTA 5. Like, woo! Some stuff just like, it's almost just like, wow, you can do this?
Dude, police unions would come after me for my GTA play. Let's just put it that way. So
how many stars you gotten?
Oh boy, the army comes out every time.
Yeah, helicopters.
Yeah. So I get it. I'm not saying I don't understand it. I'm not that old. I get it. But I'm just saying, like, the fact that that's how we get our jollies off and
relieve our frustration from a long day.
And to see the other side of that, like, okay, what if you were just an NPC walking around in that world and you're just constantly under danger and like it's almost speaking truth to power to video game culture. Get out of here, movie. I love you.
I'm just really happy. I hope the guy never turns on chat. Never turn on your headset, guy.
That'll happen.
He's going to learn a lot of new words instantly.
Learn about some of the youth of today.
Oof. Any final thoughts on the free guy? Nope.
No.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Don't forget, we had a double episode yesterday of Charting with
Extra
Dan.
long. We had a double Meltdown. I had my first Cats-related chart ever. I watched Cats. I watched the 1998 filmed version of Cats, and so I was actually able to impart some knowledge on the line, which ended up confusing both of us more than we were when the conversation started. We're so it's next week, Danielle.
I'm so
Cats
ready.
will know what this thing is in less than 2 weeks' time.
Well, we won't know what it is, but we will have seen it.
If you gave me the choice right now between seeing The Rise of Skywalker and seeing Cats, I would choose Cats in a New York minute, because I feel like I at least have the boundaries. I feel like I have at least the boundaries of what Rise of Skywalker is, and Cats is a enigma wrapped in a mystery in a litter box. I have to see what's going on with this movie. So
please go check that out. It's very, very delightful. Follow us on Twitter at ScreenJunkiesU. Also, there is a review for Jumanji coming out later today.
Yes.
So make sure you look for that as well. Ed, where can the people find you?
Can I just say it's funny that Dan is super curious about a movie about cats? That's just interesting to me. You can check me out on the thing me and Billy Business are doing called Reboot It. We're about to launch the YouTube channel, but you can also check it out on my feed or his feed on podcast. It's called Reboot It. We try to reboot movies in about an hour, and we fail all the time, and it's awesome. And you can check out Nerd Goat podcast. It's my favorite thing that I do. It's just we talk to interesting people about their favorite fictional character, and you can follow me on Ed Rigger Destroys on Twitter.
Do that. Follow Ed. Follow us. We have things. Thank you so much, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.